Hey everybody, in 3 days, the 100-day challenge is starting, so I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a run through on the nutrition and what I plan on doing, what I hope you plan to do for your nutritional habits. We talked about the grocery store, we went to the grocery store, we did that, but for our so-called diet, it's just going to be a healthy, well-rounded diet. The one thing I want to touch on today, and the point I want to stress today, is that we do want to try to eat 5 to 6 times a day, spread out 2.5 hours to 3.5 hours apart. Now I know there's this diet and that diet, and there's intermittent fasting, and there's carb cycling, and blah blah blah. We're not doing all that. I want to appeal to the masses, and I want to do it the easiest for the masses, and I want to do what science says. A lot of those are great. A lot of those work extremely well for people, but in my opinion, this is the easiest to do consistently. So we're gonna do this as our challenge for the 100 days. It does work. It is backed by science. So we're gonna go with this. Just a brief little nerdy run through on why you have to eat every 2.5 to 3.5 hours, and I'd rather you have something that's not the ideal food as opposed to skip it, is because your three macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Protein has carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Carbohydrates and fat just have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. I apologize for the dogs barking in the background. But your body, when it ingests the carbohydrates and fat, it can either rearrange the molecules or use it as carbohydrates for short-term energy, or store it as fat, literal fat, to use for long-term energy. Body basically runs off this thing called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and with that, you get, depending on your research and depending on what article you believe, roughly 39 molecules of ATP for one molecule of carbohydrate, and you get about 339 for one molecule of fat. Now there's different studies that have different numbers, no need to nitpick that, but point being is this: if your body doesn't know when it's going to have food again, and there's not a consistent calories and consistent nutrition coming in, your body will store it as fat, right? Safety first, we talk about it, we talk about being safe in what we do outside. Same goes for our body. Our body's going to go to safety first mode. That's why you see a lot of people who's struggling with their weight talk about how they only eat once a day or twice a day. Their metabolism basically shut down on them because they're not getting nutrients often enough, so their body's storing as much as they can as fat, kind of like a bear getting ready to hibernate to protect itself. So you have to increase the frequency in which you eat. So like I said, 2.5 to 3.5 hours, just want to stay in that window. You will likely gain a pound or two. Relax, everything will be fine until your body knows, okay, this is not just a fluke, this is how it's going to be from now on. And personally, few people agree with me that I've worked with. You start getting fuller faster and hungrier faster, and that's kind of when you can start to feel the switch kind of kick in, if you're aware of it. It depends on how well you're aware of your body, but the point is this: your body gets a lot more energy, and it's not running around, right, crazy energy. It's energy to survive, to keep your organs going, to take care of yourself. From one molecule of fat, about 9 times as much than one molecule of carbohydrates. So your body will rearrange the carbon, hydrogen, and the oxygen to make a molecule of fat if it's not sure. Your body's always going to revert to safety. That's why it's critical to not miss that. Sleeping's the exception, right? Don't wake up in the middle of the night to get food. But if your body goes a long time, it basically resets that and goes right back into safety mode. So you got to go a day or two to re-break that habit again. So you're better off grabbing a Snickers or something like the commercial says, grabbing a candy bar, whatever it may be, than not eating at all. That's not saying to go out and have 6 Snicker bars for your meal for the day or your meals, but you're better off having bad food than no food, unfortunately. We'll talk about portion control. We'll talk about tricks to do the right sizes. We'll talk about the ratio of different types of food for your goal. And we'll talk about just general concepts that I use that seem to work well. But I wanted to talk to you about getting 6 meals in a day, getting something in your system first thing in the morning. Break that fast, literally, right? Breakfast, you heard it before, is to break the fast. Fruits, toast, orange juice, something. Get something in there, get it going. It's critical. So for now, one thing I want you to take with this, you don't have to take the science with it, but you want to eat 5 to 6 times a day, 2.5 to 3.5 hours apart every day, right? Just because your work schedule might change on the weekends, and because you get out of your comfort zone and out of your routine on the weekends, doesn't mean you can slack up. All right, find a snack, grab some fruit on the go, grab something, nuts and seeds that you can take with you. We'll talk about all that later, but 6 meals, 2.5 to 3.5 hours apart. It's critical. It's quickly approaching. So I hope you've been preparing mentally and getting ready and kind of do your run through on the groceries and starting to get the bad food out and start to bring the good food in. I'm excited, and I hope you are too.